This is a problem, Jay Prince, and I'm gonna tell you like this: if you're 60 years old and you trying to be a street nigga, you failed. My name is Mase. I stand by this message. We not your little niggas. Like the way you talking, I don't get what you mean. For real, all that big homie stuff, that's for little niggas. Little niggas.
It all kicked off with a fight, but not the kind you'd expect in some dark alley or wild street brawl. This went down under bright lights, in a boxing ring. Shakur Stevenson had the crowd tuned in, but when the final bell rang, a lot of people were left shaking their heads. The energy, flat, the action, barely there. Fans who pulled up for fireworks walked away, saying it was nothing but dull rounds and wasted hype. Mason and Cam weren't about to sugarcoat anything. They spoke on it straight. Boring, disappointing, and no action. Their words cut deep, but instead of brushing it off like a champ, Shakur snapped back hard. He didn't just defend his skills, he went all the way, throwing out threats. Shakur challenged them straight up, saying they could strap up or throw on gloves and meet him in the ring themselves. That turned the whole situation into something bigger than boxing. And then, boom, Jay Prince entered the chat. Now, Jay Prince ain't just anybody. His name's been stamped in both the music industry and the boxing world for decades, commanding respect wherever it lands. But Mase wasn't fazed, not even a little. He came blazing with words that had everybody talking. He looked straight at Jay Prince's reputation and ripped it apart, saying loud and clear, "If you're 60 years old and still trying to act like a street guy, you failed." That was a shot with no filter, no hesitation. Mase wanted it known. He and Cam weren't anybody's little homies, and they sure didn't need some big boss figure calling the shots. They stood their ground like men with their own voice. And no way were they gonna bow down just because somebody with a big name stepped into the mix.
We gave our opinion of the fight. We said the shit was boring. All of us said it was boring. It's 100 niggas saying it's boring. But because our shit go viral, niggas think that they could keep talking to us. Shakur Stevenson told us to get the strap or strap up, or better yet, put the gloves on so he could fight us. We said what he said, and then he started going crazy.
Mase looked Jay Prince dead in the situation and asked the question everyone else was thinking: why even get involved? Instead of puffing his chest and defending Shakur's slow performance, Jay should have been focused on coaching him up, teaching him how to actually shine in the ring. That's when Mase cut the air with some raw words. "You're boring. Everybody saw it. We weren't the only ones." He jabbed even deeper, saying Shakur fought like he was scared to get touched. And that's where the humiliation really landed. Because in boxing, it's not just about wins and losses, it's about pride. And pride is everything to a fighter. Cam didn't sit silent either. He doubled down and twisted the knife, saying the wildest thing. The most entertaining thing about Shakur in the last 2 years ain't his fights. It's this argument right here. That line shook the whole debate, because it wasn't just trash talk, it was truth hitting hard. And Mase, he wasn't done. He broke it down street style. A real OG keeps his people out of mess, not throws them into more drama. In his eyes, Jay Prince flopped that test. Then he laid out a cold fact. Local respect don't equal global respect. Just because a city or a block shows love doesn't mean the world owes you that same pass. That cut deep because it stripped away the idea of Jay Prince being untouchable everywhere. For Mase, it was simple. You can't threaten folks just for speaking their opinion. Not in boxing, not in music, not anywhere. Mase kept it real simple.
Oh, look, I gotta ask, I think I'd be remiss if I don't. Any message for Cam and Mase? Y'all been going back and forth a lot over the last week.
Them old niggas, they ain't got my respect. No.
There you go.
If somebody don't like your album, you don't chase them down trying to fight. You take the criticism, you improve, or you let it slide. But instead of following that logic, Jay Prince went after Mase and Cam. Big mistake. Because instead of folding under pressure, they turned it up louder, hitting back with even more fire. And suddenly the argument was bigger than the fight itself. That's the crazy irony. Mase and Cam actually gave Shakur the headlines his fight never did. They lit the internet up, making Shakur a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. And they clowned him for it too, laughing that Shakur had never seen his name on Billboard or TMZ, until they stepped in. They straight up told him, "You made it. You're welcome. Ouch." The sting wasn't just in their words, it was in the fact that everything went viral. Suddenly, Jay Prince and Shakur looked less like confident champions and more like overly sensitive guys who couldn't handle criticism. And in boxing, where confidence is king, that kind of image starts to chip away fast.
All comedy, I'm going to deal with it like comedy, nigga. You hear that? Like I said, nigga, your mother named you after Shakur, nigga. You know I ain't had no problems with the first Shakur. I ain't going to have no problems with you.
Once the crowd sees you as thin-skinned, your aura of dominance fades quick. Mace's dismantling of Jay Prince wasn't just personal. It felt like he was giving a masterclass on the whole situation. He kept circling back to the truth. This all started because we called a fight boring. That's it. No family shots, no low blows, just a blunt review. But instead of proving them wrong in the ring, Shakur and his manager tried to win a shouting match outside it. By the end, Mase and Cam weren't even mad anymore. They were laughing, even joking about helping Shakur out, saying maybe he belonged in the podcast world where at least people would tune in. Either way, the internet went up in flames with this drama. Comments were flying nonstop, and one line kept echoing through the feeds. "If this is what checking in gets you, then I'm good." That hit different, because suddenly people weren't just debating Shakur's fight. They were questioning the whole check-in culture tied to Jay Prince's name. The moment Charleston dropped Jay Prince Jr.'s name into the mix, boom, the energy shifted instantly.
Jay Prince has a message for both of y'all with your comments after what you guys had to say about Shakur. He said, "Numbers don't lie, haters do. Let their haters say that he's boring and nobody wants to watch him. Sorry to tell you, it's just a select few of you haters. As you can see, there's proof that he has the #1 ratings in any fight on ESPN this year, the top 3 ratings since 2022. And to all of you haters who want to escalate that hate outside of the ring, I'm Shakur's manager and I handle all his business outside of the ring. In other words, Cam and Mase, I will fade all his shots and take all bets."
That's the kind of name drop that flips the whole room upside down. Mentioning him is like tossing a lit match into a tank full of gas. The explosion is guaranteed. The argument wasn't just a boxing critique anymore. It had turned into full-blown street-level controversy that had everybody talking. And let's be real. When Charleston starts calling names like that, he ain't doing it for fun. He's doing it to set the place on fire. Things went from tense to chaotic real quick, with the whole scene spiraling out of just fight talk and into something way bigger. And guess what? The wildest part. There's a clip of the whole thing. Raw, uncut, and messy. If you blink, you'll miss the heat. Because once that name got thrown out, the drama didn't just spark, it exploded. The second that clip hit social media, the views started climbing like crazy. People weren't just watching. They were dissecting every second, every word, every look. Some fans were siding with Shakur, saying the criticism was too harsh, but way more were laughing at how quick he lost his cool, turning a regular fight review into a circus. And then came the real sting, the memes. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of them filled up with people clowning the situation. Folks were posting side-by-sides of Shakur's boring fight highlights next to the heated back and forth, joking that the argument was more entertaining than the entire match. That humiliation hit hard, because once the internet flips the script, there's no controlling it.
So then we talking to you then, all right? We starting with you. Since you the big homie, we starting with you. That's how it goes around here. I want to just start off by saying you are so lacking self-awareness. Like when you give such a lackluster performance and then you think you can make threats to people because you gave a lackluster performance, pause. You don't have the right to tell me what I should like or to tell Cam what he should like. That's not your...
Jay Prince jumping in only added more fuel to the fire. Instead of making Shakur look protected, it made him look like he needed a bodyguard for words, not punches. That's not the image you want in boxing, where toughness and confidence are everything. People were saying things like, if you can't handle podcast talk, how you gonna handle the top dogs in the ring? And that question spread fast, leaving Shakur's rep hanging by a thread. By now, the whole thing had jumped way past boxing. It was turning into a culture war. People online weren't just clowning Shakur, they were questioning J. Prince's role in all of it. To some, his involvement looked less like mentorship and more like intimidation tactics, the kind of check-in energy that's been debated in hip-hop for years. Mase and Cam leaned into that angle, saying straight up, a real OG don't put young dudes in the line of fire. He shields them from it. Instead of calming things down, J. Prince turned a simple review into a headline scandal. That made folks start asking, was his presence really helping Shakur or hurting him? The timeline lit up with debates. Some were posting old clips of J. Prince's speeches about respect and loyalty, comparing them to this messy back and forth. Others were cracking jokes, saying the only knockout Shakur had recently was from a podcast dragging his pride. Every tweet, every comment, every post kept spinning the story bigger and bigger until the fight itself was almost forgotten. What should have been a clean win in the ring was overshadowed by a messy battle outside it, and that's the kind of L that sticks. Because once the internet decides your drama is more entertaining than your talent, climbing back from that is brutal. And then came the dagger. Mase went straight for J. Prince's legacy, no hesitation.
What's happening? Mase smoked what's happening right now. They both worded it, and it still seemed respectful.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they didn't get out of pocket.
Yeah. They didn't get out of pocket.
They seemed like
were just telling the truth.
He asked out loud what a lot of people were already whispering. How long can you keep running off the same respect you built decades ago? Mase made it clear he wasn't scared of names, history, or reputation. To him, if your influence today is just built off fear and old stories, then maybe you're not as powerful as you think. Cam chimed in too, doubling down with sharp jabs of his own. He pointed out that the industry has changed. What worked in the 90s doesn't automatically work now. You can't silence every critic, you can't control every narrative, and you definitely can't bully people for having an opinion. That was a direct hit, because it exposed how fragile J. Prince's role looked in this whole mess. The crowd online ate it up. Screenshots of their comments and clips of their jokes were everywhere. People started framing it like a generational showdown, the new wave refusing to bow down to the old guard. And every time Mase and Cam laughed it off, it made J. Prince and Shakur look even more pressed. That's when folks realized this wasn't just boxing gossip anymore. It was turning into a fight for respect itself. By now, the whole thing had spun into something way bigger than a post-fight debate. It was straight up a cultural moment. The internet wasn't just watching, it was choosing sides, and the shocking twist, Shakur wasn't coming out as the winner. Mase and Cam were getting crowned as the voices of reason, even while clowning, because they stood tall and refused to fold under pressure from a so-called untouchable name like J. Prince. Fans online started saying things like, Shakur should have just ignored them, and this made him look weaker, not stronger. The fact that a couple of podcasters could shake up his image louder than his own fists was humiliating, and people weren't letting it slide. Memes, jokes, reaction videos. The internet turned the entire feud into non-stop entertainment. And the deeper the conversation went, the clearer the message became. Confidence in boxing is everything, but the minute you look thin-skinned, your aura cracks. Mase and Cam exposed that crack wide open.
Comedy, I'm going to deal with it like comedy, nigga. You hear that? Like I said, nigga, your mother named you after Shakur, nigga. You know I ain't had no problems with the first Shakur. I ain't going to have no problems with you. Chill out, Lord, nigga. We got the right to have our opinion, and I say that with all due respect, you know, but just keep it where it is, man. Let humor be humor. Let everybody say what they got to say. You don't like what we said? Nigga, box better. Until you beat Tank, it ain't really nothing for you to say. And making threats, I'm going to just keep it real. If we talking boxing, I got 3 knockouts in All-Star Weekend, man. So I got 100% knockout ratings on All-Star Weekend if we checking the records.
What was supposed to be Shakur's night of victory turned into a night where 2 commentators stole the spotlight and left him fighting for his reputation instead of a title. If Shakur ever thought about switching careers, Mase and Cam made it clear he'd be stepping into comedy because they turned the whole beef into jokes. And that's one of the coldest ways to end an argument, making the other side look like they were never worth taking seriously in the first place. The disrespect in that move wasn't loud, it was clever, and it stung even worse. In the end, Mase didn't just roast J. Prince and Shakur, he rewrote the whole narrative. What should have been remembered as a clean win for Shakur in the ring got flipped upside down and stamped as a loss in the court of public opinion. J. Prince tried to defend his fighter, but instead of shutting critics down, he boosted their platform and gave them the spotlight. Mase walked away looking like the winner, calm, confident, and unbothered, clowning one of the most respected names in the game with nothing but humor and sharp words. The fight might have been boring, but the fallout, explosive. This was entertainment at its peak, just not the kind Shakur and J. Prince ever wanted tied to their names. Before you bounce, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's keep this convo rolling. Got thoughts? I want to hear them. And hey, share this with somebody who needs to see how wild this really got. Catch you in the next one. It's about to get even crazier.